Tourism is adventure. Tourism is pleasure. Travels and tourism is business. Join me, Oscar Akporu, every Thursday 4 p.m. as I take on great minds on travels and tourism Africa on EAGLES Television International. Hello viewers, this is Travels and Tourism Africa, a program on EAGLES Television International. On set with me today is a renowned environmentalist, an adventurer, a captain of industry, somebody who has seen it all, and his nickname, the Desert Warrior. Please, let's meet Chief Dr. Jibunoh. Do I say Chukwuka Dibia Jibunoh?
In fact, I'm also the founder of Didi Museum.
Yes.
Still the only private museum in the country. And that also has a lot of story. And most of the collections that we have in the museum tell a lot of story, going back a few thousand years, our civilization, our culture. And yeah, so thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your program.
Welcome, sir. Let's start like this. Did you sign a death warrant or a death wish when you chose to go through the Sahara Desert?
I think I can answer that question from what I have said in the past. And that is that if you must go on an expedition, you must be ready to die. Because it's only when you are ready to die. I mean, before I go on, let me also say that, especially in ancient times, 70–80% of those that go on exploration don't come back, they die. Today is a bit less, maybe we say 50% of those that go on expedition don't come back. Even the moon and space expedition, you know, we've suffered quite a bit of death with that. So, and I say it to those that are beginning to aspire, those that are coming with me, those that went with me and want to come again, I make it absolutely clear to them that you have to be ready to die. This is because when you confront death, and I did so many times, a number of times I came near death situation. If you are ready to die, it's a lot easier for you to accept. And once you are ready to die, you are able to handle the death a lot better than when you're not ready. Because when you're not ready to die, you panic. And once you panic, you lose focus. And when you lose focus, that's when death will catch up with you. So yes, it's like signing a death warrant. Because to go on any expedition, it could happen anytime.
Yeah. Just going through a couple of works by some of these writers. One of them is a British adventurer, Jason Lewis. And according to him, adventures draw global sustainability lessons from living within finite environmental constraints on expeditions. Now at this point, we want to ask, what drove you to cross the desert, the ominous desert? Was it sheer adventure? Was it quest? Fame? Or maybe a death wish? Or probably all of that. So what drove you?
Well, let me answer that question again by telling you that all the good things of life today that we enjoy, take your telecommunication network, the GSM that is now working wonders in our lives. That was made possible through expedition. If not for the expedition to the space and the moon, we will not have GSM today. And as a student, young man studying abroad, that was when the expedition to the space and subsequently to the moon started. And all I wanted was to be part of that era. Why is it that they are the ones exploring, innovating, discovering, and dumping on us? Why is it that we cannot, we Africans or we Nigerians, why is it that we can't be part of that? That was, so call it spirit of adventure. So I decided that for me to be able to become part of that exploration, I needed to do something similar to what those that went to the space, to what those that went to the moon have done. And the nearest to me, the easiest to me, the closest to me, was our dear Sahara, the biggest in the world, and a place that was then seen as a forbidden territory. And that was how the whole dream started. So yes, the first one was born out of the spirit of adventure.
And you said the easiest of them all was the Sahara Desert. So did you consider the problems, challenges, possible difficulties, dangers, probably risk that could be associated with such adventure? Did you suffer dehydration? Or you had the courage to face the unknown, probably even the known?
All that you have mentioned, it took me 8 months to plan. I mean, you don't just wake up because you have to take a lot of things into consideration. How am I going to feed? How am I going to move around? What kind of instruments am I going to have? What communication gadgets so that I can reach out to the rest of the world? How am I going to fuel my car in the desert? How am I going to find water to take care of dehydration that you mentioned? All those things are things you plan. And for instance, my first expedition lasted 2 months. So you have to be ready for virtually everything you carry or you take along with you to last that period. You have to be ready, especially with water, with food, with fuel for your vehicle, and of course your documentation. All those things took about 8 months to plan. And in the planning, you also have to take into consideration the risk you are taking, your life and the rest of it. The joy in all that is that here am I today facing your wonderful television station, and able to tell the story because I planned well, I calculated all the risk, and I was able to make it.
Did you at any point run out of water? Because I remember in one of the articles, one of the comments you made, you didn't have access to clean water. So did you at any point run out of water?
Of course, especially when you see the expedition lasting longer than you had calculated. You apart from training yourself to do without, I went for a few days without food, but you cannot go for a few days without water. Yes, I did run out of water. And when I saw water, I can't quite remember now the way I handled it. And I can't even quite remember the color of the water I saw the first time I saw water after a very long time.
In your expedition, the first expedition, that was 1966, you didn't just wake up suddenly and face it. It was born out of sheer adventure, because at that time in the history of the world, there were a lot of discoveries, in Europe especially, and you wanted to make a mark as an African. Like you said, things not being done to us, so you wanted to make a mark. But what was your endurance level while you were in the desert? Because you need some level of vitality and all that. Did your endurance level begin to depreciate at a certain point?
Endurance, you use the word, that's a very good one, because everything about adventuring is how well and how much you can endure. I mentioned earlier on that I came across death situations so many times. But you have to learn to endure so that you can live the next day, you can live the next hour. It's not easy to mention the level of endurance you must carry with you because it's your body and it's your whole system, your whole faculty that you carry with you. But I was bent on making it. I was bent on returning, especially the first one that started from London. I was bent on reaching Nigeria. And I was bent on being able to tell my story. And I was bent on being able to tell the world that there is no difference between those that are exploring the moon and exploring the space and us. I just wanted to make that statement. And that also kept my endurance level to a point. And that carried me through. Let's do something, let's show that we can also be part of that era of exploration. And like I said, that carried me through and helped with my endurance level.
You've made 4 expeditions, as it were, thus far, 66, and you had one 2000, you had another in 2008, and the very recent one at 2012. In all this, what particular thing did you see in the desert that jostled your spirit to carry on?
Well, it was the very first one that, it may sound strange, but nothing on earth would have prepared me for what I saw in the Sahara. The expanse, the size, the near burning situation of the sand, the very cold temperature at night, the isolation, the mystery, the mirage that don't exist, the things you see that are not there, the things you hear that are not there. So many things that I did not prepare for. So it was that very first one that also exposed me to what the desert was doing to the neighboring countries surrounding, because you have a situation where the sun is being burned and turning into dust and moving, entering territories, entering farmlands, entering grazing fields. Those were the things that I did not prepare for. And that was also what changed my perception about the whole idea. That if I'm going to make another trip, it would be about advocacy that would bring this whole thing to the attention of the global community. First to my nation, then to the global community. Because I saw something that was going to bring about a completely new phenomenon, which is what we are experiencing today. So that was what that first expedition exposed me to.
Okay.
The true meaning. You know, the French, especially the French-speaking Africans, will tell you, as Sahara c'est pas bon. That is not. It's not something you should attempt. It's not something that is nice. So don't even attempt it. So, but of course, who else was in a better position to bring that to the global arena, so that we can all begin to not just talk about it, but do something about it.
Was there something significant? You had 4 expeditions thus far. Is there something that you think is significantly different that you saw that was different from the first? We went for the second. Is something significantly different from the first? The third from the second? The fourth from the third? Was something significant?
Yeah, the first, I was alone. I was not really, like I mentioned earlier on, I did not know what I was I was a very young man. I was in my late 20s. I wouldn't say that I didn't calculate well. In fact, when I finally made it to Nigeria, driving from London, I had to ask myself questions like, what was I really doing? Was I okay? That was the first expedition. The second expedition, I was better prepared and well equipped because I had gone from using a compass to navigate my expedition to a modern telecommunication system. And I was able to go with a better vehicle this time, not the
Volkswagen.
And I was able to carry a lot more food item and water than I did the first one. But in all that, there is nothing like undergoing an expedition like this alone. First one, it was impossible to get somebody to come with me. The same thing happened because then I came from London. Second one from Nigeria was from Nigeria to London. I also had difficulties. Nobody would come with me. So in going on to the third one, which was now kind of different, because by then I was then able to, people saw that, first and second, nothing, no. So the third one, I was able to mobilize a number of scientists and explorers, 7 of us with 3 vehicles. So that was a bit different from the first and second because this time I had people. But having people also came with its own problem because you are now responsible for lives. I remember the day we were leaving, parents and friends of families of those that were coming, some were shedding tears. So, and suddenly I felt I was taking lives with me. And that fear alone, because before then it was just me, my life. But now I was having 7 other lives to bring back to this country. And that frightened me. That worried me. And that was where I got my name, the captain, because I now became the captain of the ship, as it were. And I needed to navigate, not only navigate well, I needed to care about their well-being and their lives. That's the third one. Then the fourth one was also born out of advocacy, sensitization of the people, and which was sponsored by Lagos State government. I was able to convince Fashola and his executive council that a good percentage of the migration that was happening from the desert area was going to end up in Lagos. And that if nothing was done to check that migration, to check why people are migrating out of the fringes of the desert, they will end up not only here in the south, but they will end up in Lagos. And Fashola saw the picture and everything that I painted and decided to come with some kind of sponsorship. They bought the 18 vehicles, jeeps that we use to convey almost 60 warriors. Putting them through the language you used, endurance. How do you endure in situations? How are you able to come, work here and live in it? And that was how the fourth expedition was born. Out of now, not only sensitization of the people, not only the advocacy that goes along with it, but also passing on the torch to the younger ones. Because age is not on my side, and the projects and programs that we are trying to follow up with are things that will take 20, 30 years to realize. And now in my 80s, I know God has been magnanimous with me, but I don't know if that will continue for another 20 years. I doubt it very much. So there was that need to hand over the whole advocacy to younger ones that will possibly take the whole program to perpetuity.
Talking about age, I know you run, you're in charge of so many things. First, I know you're a certified award acclaimed building engineer. I know you run a private museum. And here we are in this beautiful large garden named the Mandela Garden Park. There are lots and lots of this. So how do you able to manage all this with the age factor?
Well, let me also say that fortunately I haven't been that alone. I have a formidable team, people that believed in me going back a long time, because a good number of people thought I was crazy at the initial stage, but with time a lot of people started believing in me, and that has also made it possible for me to mobilize good men and women that are now working with me. So yes, I have a lot of things that I initiated, but I've been fortunate in the sense I initiate, yes, but I carry people along, and I have wonderful friends and wonderful assistants and wonderful young men and women that are all over the place wanting to be part of all the things that I do, be it working in a museum, and be it working in a park like this, be it handling my professional building business, which I have given up on now because I can no longer work as a building engineer anywhere. I'm not even qualified to be appointed anywhere anymore. I think I have a restless nature, but in a way I've been described as such. I managed to cope, and I think one of my assistants once said that when I go to bed, I don't know what I'm going to wake up with, because I'm a great dreamer. Yes, I dream a lot, and then I come up with things.
That's great to know. You know, in your works to curb the scourge of poverty that is occasioned by desertification, you did come up with something, fade, and I see it's boldly there in your jacket, fight against desert encroachment. We also realized that you came up with a pilot project in the northern part of the country, Nigeria. You already have 4 expeditions, so to say. How has this impacted on the reclamation of the desert land?
That's a very interesting question, because I saw it all. I saw countries losing a good part of their land to the Sahara. I saw communities losing their farmland to the desert. I saw animal husbandry disappearing, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, because of the disappearance of grazing fields. I saw all that, and who was in a better position to bring this up than me? So that was how the instrument of faith came up. We must fight back the desert. We must push it back. And I even went to United Nations to make a presentation to let the global community, because at that time it was the Amazon rainforest that the country, but they forgot what was going on with the desert. So I needed to carry the whole phenomenon to the United Nations. And it was after one of my presentations that an ambassador from Israel came up to me and said, "Do you know that what you're talking about was what they did in Israel? And that the whole of Israel was recovered from the Negev desert. Go and check it out. The whole of Israel today was taken over, was taken from the Negev desert." And he said to me that he would like me to go to Israel to see how and why they did what they did to recover Israel. I took him up on it. And in fact, he made all the arrangements, which took me to, I went back to the university, Ben Gurion University in Israel, to study the science of desertification. I came back to Nigeria equipped now, because you know, sometimes you do some of these things, people will question your qualification, people will question how experienced you are. But having been in Israel for 3 months, studying the science of desertification, I was now better equipped to carry on with my campaign. It was not easy to go to the north and begin the campaign with that. Fortunately, the Emir of Kano then, Alhaji Adebayo, was a very good friend of mine. He was also one of those that believed in me. He was one of those that followed all my activities. So through him, I was able to reach out to Kano State government. And I went to Kano State government and I said, show me the part of the state that has been affected by desertification. And they took me to this desert land. I will show you the pictures. And it was clear that the whole place not only was already taken over by the desert was still moving. So I said to them, fine, allow me to show you here how this can be done. So I started reclaiming, not only first started by pushing the desert, I managed to reclaim a good part of the desert. That's in Dambata area of Kano State, known as Makoda. I reclaimed the entire community from the desert. Hamlets that had migrated out of the area because of the encroachment, they came back. They helped me. We even built schools because they were now coming back with families. And not only that we built schools, we built boreholes and water bodies. And you know what the community did? They built a house for me. So, having done that, in fact, the day the project, which was known as a pilot project, the day it was commissioned, 4 governors came to see what I had done. The Emir of Kano himself chaired the occasion. The British High Commissioner in Abuja, who gave us some money, came with his wife. It was a carnival, it was a big ceremony to commission. And what the governors then said was that if this is replicated in other areas, that the whole issue of disappearing grazing field would become a thing of the past. But did they follow it up? They didn't. And of course, before we knew it, Boko Haram thing had started. Moving around in the north, replicating that project became almost impossible. But I can tell you one thing though, whenever the hostility ceases, I'll go back there and I'll continue with the project. Because that is the only way to solve the problems we have today with henchmen. We have to restore grazing fields for them. Because they all came from places that used to carry a lot of greenery that are no more. So we have to bring back greenery. They must go back. And the one thing most of us don't know is that the Fulani henchmen cannot be urbanized. They want to stay in their natural habitats. Begin to address the issue, we have to restore the grazing fields. So those are the advantages that have come out of my expedition.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me just take you slightly back a bit. I'd like to know, in the Sahara Desert, how much did you actually see of the Sahara Desert? Was it restrictive or was it total?
You know, like I said earlier on, nothing prepares you for what you see and encounter in the Sahara. You know, if you have a situation where you are suddenly, let me put it in a simple way. It's only in the desert that you see a very thin line between sanity and insanity. Because you get to a stage, you start asking yourself, am I normal? Am I normal to be in a place like this? Because you see things that don't exist. You hear sounds that are not there. So if you can begin to imagine that, and that's enough to send any human being crazy. It's extremely isolated. Massive land of nothing but sand. Then the heat that goes with it, the cold temperature that comes at night, everything, that's why I say it is total. You have to be, in your strongest, those that I took with me, I took them through a lot of orientation. In fact, at the stage, some of them were laughing. But when they got there, they saw what I was trying to do. So yes, it is total.
All right, sir. You are a man who has come face to face with the issue of mortality. What would you have written on your gravestone?
I would like to leave that to those that will be, you know, there after I'm gone, because people have looked at me differently. Let those that will be coming after me prepare something that can be. I cannot say that this is how. In fact, it's like the question when people say, "What would you like to be remembered for?" And I've always said, "I don't know," because I've done so many things. I've been in so many things. Not only that, I don't know when that end will come. What is going to happen between now and that end? So let those that are going to be left behind be the ones to determine how to remember me or what to write on my grave.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure being in your presence. I'd like to say we've been talking with Chief Dr. Newton. I like the middle name, Newton Jibunoh. He's not just a founder, he's also a writer. He has written several books, and he has written several articles. And so there are still more to come. So it's been a pleasure having you on our station, EAGLES Television International. And we look forward to doing similar things more time as time permits. And I know that when we come knocking again, I'm sure the doors will be wide open.
Thank you very much.
It's been our pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
And I must say that it's been a joy talking to you, and a joy being on your television. And yes, I look forward to when next will come. And then, of course, so that the whole conversation can continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Tourism is adventure. Tourism is pleasure. Travels and tourism is business. Join me, Oscar Akporu, every Thursday 4 p.m. as I take on great minds on travels and tourism Africa on EAGLES Television International.